right,
Okay,
ready when.
it's 6:30 and the Planning and Zoning Committee will come to order. We have no minutes to approve, so we'll jump right into the first ordinance here. Temporary Ordinance A80 presented by the administration following consideration by the Planning Commission. An ordinance authorizing and approving a conditional zoning certificate to operate an outdoor sales lot on parcel 35-00079, 4095 State Road in an MU3 suburban center district and declaring an emergency. Mr. Paul, I believe you may be the one that's going to be speaking to this.
I am. Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. This is Adam Paul. I'm the senior planner with the city. If it's okay, I'll go ahead and share my screen and get into a little bit about what you just introduced. As mentioned, the item is on your agenda for consideration of a conditional zoning use. Outdoor sales lot is the way we define the use for a used car lot, which is what this is. The applicant is Cartwright out of Madison Heights, Michigan, and the representative was Architectural Alliance, a firm out of Columbus. They've actually been to a couple meetings before us already. This particular site, which is just north of the East Steeles Corners Road and State Road intersection, is the former Burger King restaurant site there at 4059 State Road. They came to our Board of Zoning Appeals for a variance because that site lacked the required minimum frontage for this type of use in an MU4 district. Mr. James alluded to this, but also at the Board of Zoning Appeals, we had no opposition from the public or otherwise. In fact, had a call of support from a neighboring business owner, Matt Mylon of Falls Dodge. And so they were granted that variance to proceed, and they then went to our planning commission, and between those two meetings came together with some additional information for us to review, and very good to work with in terms of their response times and getting us details that we needed for consideration. So at the Planning Commission meeting held on Wednesday, November 4th, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the conditional zoning request. Here we've got some additional information for your consideration should you need it. And this is, a list of the code references pertinent to it and some other things. Everywhere around it, there's a certain mix of uses, but there are a number of similar uses and other outdoor sales lots within the immediate vicinity. So their plan is to renovate and upfit the building to meet their needs. I'll show you an elevation view of it. And then they're going to do some site improvement. They're going to kind of fix up the parking lot there. They're going to add some landscaping as required and make a nice investment on this site that's been vacant for some time. So as I scroll down here, I'll show you, this is just the general vicinity of the zoning. I said MU4, excuse me, it's MU3. Mixed use 3 is the zoning designation. This parcel that's highlighted here, we recently had one on this flag-shaped lot over here for new development, also granted conditional use for the same purpose. Just below that, we've got an image that was provided by Architectural Alliance that shows why they've gotten to you with a recommendation for approval at this stage. And it's because for the conditional use purposes, there wouldn't be any type of negative impact to the immediate vicinity. You can see there are a number of other similar type uses within this same area here on the north end of State Road. Here is a view of their proposed site plan. This is one that was brought back to us in response to, as I said, working with the applicant and some comments that went into our staff report for the Planning Commission. And here they're showing new screening and buffering here with landscaping improvements. They've identified all the site circulation and other pertinent details that we needed for review at that commission. Things are looking very good there in terms of compliance. And this rendering will give you an idea of what you might expect to see there after they get through their commercial renovation permitting. And this would be subject to our mixed use design standards. And so, as Mr. James said, there was really no additional comment beyond that from our planning commission. It's been a good project to work with. We've gotten everything we need from them at this point. The commission's approval included just a couple basic conditions that are standard items, such as a landscape bond submittal and meeting the design guidelines for the mixed use district. And so with that, I think I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen and gladly answer any questions you may have pertaining to the conditional use.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. I appreciate that. All my answers, all my questions were answered by Mr. Paul from the meeting and from the Planning Commission meeting. So are there any questions from the committee? No? Okay. Any questions from the rail?
Mr. James?
Yes, sir.
I would just like to comment. I think this is going to be a great addition to the area. I have checked out this company, and since we seem to have a lot of car dealers right there, I think this is really going to clean up that area, and it's going to be very good. I'm very pleased.
Yeah, well said, Mike. I believe the same thing. So it's going to be a welcome business there. So I'm pretty happy with it. Any other questions from the committee or the rail? Mr. Gorbach?
Yeah, I just have a comment. I find it interesting that this is a car dealer that's going next to a bunch of other car dealers. And as opposed to the car wash that went in not too long ago, we had other car washes complaining about this car wash was going to take business away from them. If I heard right, we had a neighboring business call and in support of this business. And we've not heard any residents that are saying we have too many used car sales or outdoor car sales groups. It's just interesting to me on the same street further north, how different these two projects have come together.
Right. That's a very good point, Tim. Anybody else?
Yes.
Go ahead, Frank.
James, can you hear me?
I sure can.
It's Frank Stams. Just to respond to Mr. Gorbach's comment, I don't believe there's a lot of residents that live around the Burger King area that would probably be too concerned about too many car lots there. So just a comment on that.
No problem, Frank. I appreciate that. Okay. Has there been any other communications, emails, or questions from the public, Ms. Capriola?
Yes, we have 3 emails from our.
Well, let me get through this one first. This is
Okay.
That's separate. Thank you.
All righty.
I was just wondering if there was anything that came in about this
For
one.
this particular ordinance, no, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very good. If there isn't any more questions or concerns, I will ask for a motion in a second to bring out temporary ordinance A80 for a vote next week.
So moved.
And I will second that since Mary
I just-
had that. Oh,
Sorry,
are you unfrozen?
I'm unfrozen. Second, thank you.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. All those in favor of temporary ordinance A80 signify by saying yes.
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 Okay, the vote was unanimous. We will bring out temporary ordinance A80 for a vote next week. Ms. Capriola, I understand there's some emails about the Merriman Valley development.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we received 3 emails. The first one was from an Ashley at Hi-Ho Brewing Company. She stated, I am a resident of Cuyahoga Falls who has been informed of the 120 acres in the valley that have been slated to be sold and rezoned for 2 large developments by the city of Akron. I oppose further development in the Merriman Valley area without a master plan and saying no to big developers. We need to save our precious green space. Thanks, Ashley. The next one I received was from Jamie Sips. Says, to whom it may concern, I am a city of Cuyahoga Falls resident. I oppose the further development in the Merriman Valley area without a master plan. Thank you, Jamie. And the last one was from Adam Hoy. It states, I'm a Cuyahoga Falls Akron resident and oppose further development in the Merriman Valley area. I think the forestry is part of the appeal to this area. And that's
Thank
all
you.
I have.
Thank you, Ms. Capriola, and we really appreciate the concerns from the residents also. Duly noted. And before I close, I just want to remind everybody, we're going to be having a public hearing next Monday, the 23rd, for temporary ordinance A72, and that'll start at 6:30. So if there isn't any other business to come before the committee, we're adjourned.
I need to get me off a non-temporary. Hold on. Okay, at 6:40, I'll call the Finance Committee meeting to order. We have 3 pieces of legislation to discuss this evening. We'll discuss A82 and A83 now, and we'll move on to the budget at the end of everyone else's committees. A82, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract without competitive bidding with Fidelity Security Insurance Company and/or its subsidiary IMED Vision Care for the administration of the city's self-insured employee vision care services insurance plans for a period not to exceed 1 year and declaring an emergency. I'm not sure Mr. Hoffman or Ms. Steiner is going to speak to this.
I can speak to it. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, sure.
This is just to renew our current contract that we have with IMED. We did go out and market the vision benefits to through our broker, and we did receive 3 different responses. However, the plans were not mirroring the current level of coverage that we have through IMED, and IMED has agreed to keep the rates consistent with what we are currently paying and what we have been currently paying for quite some time. We've been with IMED, I believe it's going on 5 years, and this will renew the rates for 1 year, and that will be guaranteed for that 1 year period. When this is up, we will have to go back out and market our vision benefits. And the other carriers just were not able to match the level of coverage that we were looking for, as well as the dual option plans that we offer our employees.
Okay. I remember you talking about the vision care last year. I don't know that the same circumstance was present at that time where they matched and you couldn't find equal coverage, but I remember you speaking favorably about the vision care and what they offered to our employees. So it's great that they're matching what we paid previously for the same services. You can't ask for more than that, especially if you're happy with the carrier.
That's correct. And it's easy to explain our vision benefits at open enrollment when employees are familiar with it for the past 5 years.
Yeah, without a doubt. A change is not, it's hard for everybody, but when you start changing health coverages, it tends to make people nervous. So I'm glad in this instance you're able to keep the same coverage. I don't have any questions. Are there any questions from the Finance Committee? Are there any questions from the rail? Is there any member of the public here tonight? No. Okay. Is there a motion to bring out temporary ordinance A82 for vote for next week?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
No pun intended, right? Motion passes, and we'll vote on A82 next week. Temporary ordinance A83, presented by the administration, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract or contracts without competitive bidding with Guardian Life Insurance Company for the administration of the city's fully insured employee dental insurance plan for a period not to exceed 2 years and declaring an emergency. Ms. Steiner, you again?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. This is a little bit different than the vision. We will be switching carriers beginning January 1st of 2021. We did go out to market this through our broker. We did receive an increase from our current carrier, which is MetLife Dental. The renewal for them, I'm sorry. We did not receive a renewal increase from MetLife Dental. However, Guardian came back with a dual option plan for dental, and they came in with a 4.2% reduction and increase the level of benefits for our dental coverage, including 100% preventative care for network and out-of-network benefits. And we also increased our basic services from 80% coverage to 85% coverage through Guardian. They also included a 2-year rate renewal guarantee, as well as a tech credit, which will help us pay for some of our administrative system through our new enrollment system that we have in place. So that credit will also come to us. That averages out about $4,000 that they're willing to give us a credit to help pay for that. So they came in very competitive, and the healthcare committee has reviewed all the quotes, and they are recommending to the city as well that we move to Guardian with a 4.2 increase. I'm sorry, a negative 4.2 increase.
Okay. When you are making a change, back to that thought process, it's easier when you're increasing benefits for less cost. So
Correct.
that's more appealing, I guess, to those that have the service to choose from. Very good. Thank you.
You're
Are
welcome.
there any questions from the Finance Committee or comments from the rail? Okay. Is there a motion to bring out temporary ordinance A83 for a vote next week?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We'll vote on temporary ordinance A83 next week. I'm going to recess for now, let the other committees do their thing, and then we'll come back and continue discussion on the budget, temporary ordinance A78. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Gorbach, and it is 6:46, and I will call the Public Affairs Committee to order. We have two pieces of legislation to discuss tonight. The first is temporary ordinance A84, presented by the administration upon the recommendation of the Traffic Committee, an ordinance amending the traffic control file by providing for the installation of various traffic control devices and declaring an emergency. And I believe we have Chief Davis here this evening.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, we had 9 items that came before the Traffic Control Committee. First one was to move the no parking between these signs at 2115 10th Street on the east side of the street to 2103 10th Street, also on the east side of the street. The second one was to prohibit parking on the south side of Ashland Avenue between 644 and 700 Ashland Avenue. The third was to prohibit parking on the curb across from 725 Ashland Avenue on Ashland at the intersection of Ashland Avenue and Charles Street. Those were due to some site issues. Number 4 was to prohibit parking on the east side of Allenson Circle. It's a new street in our city. They wanted to get that in there. Number 5 was update the traffic file for the Redwood development, including no parking signs on Redwood Drive, Aspen Place, and Poplar Lane on the even side of those roads. 6th item was to update the traffic file for Woodland Preserve, also a newer development, prohibit parking on the south side of West Woodland Drive, prohibit parking on the south side of South Woodland Drive, prohibit parking on the south side of East Woodland Drive. Number 7 was a prohibit parking on the west side of North Steel Circle. It's a development that's still in the building stage. Number 8 was to prohibit parking by posted signage, no parking here to corner, 200 feet from the Cedar Hill, Cedar Woods Drive intersection on the north side of Cedar Woods Drive. And that was a kind of a crunch where those roads came together there and it created a safety hazard. And number 9 was prohibit parking on the dead end of Prank Drive on school days from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. And that was to allow a little bit better access for the Woodridge school buses to get through the area.
Very good. Thank you, Chief. I do not have any questions on any of these matters. Does anyone else on the Public Affairs Committee have any questions? Anyone on council? And do we have anyone from the public here today, or did we receive any emails, Dana, from the public? None? Great. Well, thank you, Chief. That was a great explanation. No questions, so you did very well. Do I have a motion to bring out temporary ordinance A84 for a vote next week?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, and we'll vote on that next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Next, we have temporary resolution A85 presented by the administration. A resolution approving the Summit County Solid Waste Management Plan prepared by the Summit Akron Solid Waste Management Authority, doing business as Reworks, and declaring an emergency. I believe we have a guest here from Reworks here this evening, but I don't know if Anthony or Teresa, if you're going to kick us off or if we're going to go straight to our guest. Let me think. I think we've got some people on mute here. Anthony, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't really have any comments for this as Marcy's going to explain it. This is just they're renewing their master plan, and they need our approval to continue the grants and things that we get through Reworks. They do a really nice job, and we work well with them. So with that, I'll leave it up to Marcy.
Hello, Marcy. You can go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Mr. Zimbo, thank you very much for that introduction. I'm Marcy Kress. I'm the Executive Director for the Summit Akron Solid Waste Management Authority, doing business as Reworks. I appreciate the opportunity this evening just to give you a summary of our solid waste plan update. As one of Ohio's 52 solid waste districts, we are required to create a solid waste plan every 5 years. It gets updated every 5 years, even though they're 15-year plan. The last time Cuyahoga Falls approved the plan was in 2014. So naturally, here we are again for another 5-year update. The plan is 6 chapters, 21 appendices long. So with your permission this evening, I'd love to just give you the highlights of the plan, with, of course, providing the option to answer any questions the further you look into the document. But the key priorities for the solid waste plan is one thing that's really important for Falls to know is that we are not looking to increase our generation fee. Solid waste districts like our authorities like the Reworks are funded by a generation fee, which is for every ton of trash generated in Summit County, we get $5. The last time this fee was increased in 2004, and there is no proposed increase in this fee for the duration of the planning period, which will run 2021 to 2036. Additionally, we will maintain all of our existing services, including the Household Hazardous Waste Recycling Center, document shredding and recycling events, scrap tire collections, business recycling programs will remain in place. Also, we will keep in place our countywide curbside recycling education campaign, which we have provided since the existence of the agency, still remain very dedicated to keeping that information out, working with cities, townships, and villages to convey that information. Of course, the Community Recycling Assistance Grant is really important for us to maintain as well, and that's where we provide financial support to cities, townships, and villages for their curbside recycling or composting efforts. That will remain in place. We've had some feedback from municipalities on how we could help redirect these funds to make sure to provide support, but I want to assure you that that is in the plan from 2021 to 2036. Although who can say what happens in 2036? I can tell you we'll be back in 5 years. Nevertheless, those things do remain in place. As far as expanding our services, we are looking to, during this planning period, find additional solutions to food waste management. This is large scale, small scale. However, we can help find solutions and provide an alternative for food waste and reduce food waste in Summit County. We do hope to explore those during the planning period. On the same front, another major change in the plan is that we are looking to relocate our administrative offices to be more publicly accessible, as well as exploring the possibility of adding a service center to help collect difficult to manage materials. So those are plans to be reviewed by our Board of Trustees, of course, and approved in that process, but we do have them mentioned in the solid waste plan, and I want to let you know of those are the key changes, at least for the solid waste plan as we're presenting it. As far as the process, in order for this plan to be approved, we do have to have ratification. Ratification occurs when population representing 60% or more from the cities, townships, and village, including our largest municipality, which is the city of Akron, have to approve the plan, as well as county council and our board of trustees. Typically, this process occurs after a public comment period. We are in our public comment period right now for the public to provide us information. We have a public hearing actually scheduled for tomorrow. Due to unique circumstances this year, we're on about a few month delay. So what I'm presenting to council today is that we are looking for review and approval of the update in conjunction with the same public comment period. So typically there's 90 days to allow municipalities to get back to us on this issue. And we want to be very transparent that we are overlapping the public comment period. As of today, we've had no comments, and comments are due to us up to November 25th. The last piece I want to add on ratification is due to the Ohio EPA by November 29th. So our cutoff date to have our plan approved does fall on a Sunday. So actually we're looking at around November 25th to try to have the resolutions from our municipalities. So it is unique circumstances this year, but I want to be transparent on the process we're looking at and also provide any answers or explanation on our plan as we're presenting it to you. And with that, I will entertain any questions or provide any explanation.
Thank you, Marcy. I appreciate all the information. I'll also let council know that if you visit their website, they have an executive summary of the plan up there. I took a look at that. I thought it was very helpful, a lot of valuable information there. I would encourage you to check out. And Marcy, I don't know if you recall, but I believe I was your intern about 14
Of course.
years ago now.
Of course.
So it's very good to see you.
I hope the plan makes you proud, Mr. Bowles.
It does. It was very good. It's exciting.
Very good.
And I would also encourage, if anyone has more information, also the public hearing is tomorrow, as Marcy mentioned. So another great opportunity to get more information. So again, appreciate your presentation. I do not have any additional questions. Does anyone on the Public Affairs Committee have any questions? Councilwoman Spinner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a question or just need clarification on how you had mentioned ratification needing to be obtained by a certain percentage of the public. How do you go about doing that?
So we are in the process right now of meetings just similar to this one, where we go out to the township trustees and council to reach approval. And it's through those resolutions from the cities, townships, or villages that we receive approval and ratification. 60% is the minimum requirement. Of course, we're trying to aim to be higher than that, but we have to at least meet 60% by definition of the Ohio EPA.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Marcy, I guess I will ask, out of curiosity, are we one of the first communities you've spoken to, or have other communities already approved, or where are you at in the ratification process?
So the unique circumstances presented to us this year, as everybody has been, we have a strategic planning committee, which is really crucial in the development of this solid waste plan. We met on October 27th to explore the options ahead of us. Looking at those options, I was given the directive to start attending meetings immediately. So I would say this is probably I met with county council a few hours before this meeting. This is probably my 5th or 6th. I have several for this week and several more for next week. So it's a wide variety. Virtual meetings have been beneficial in this process, as I'm able to be in the northern and southern part of the county very quickly. But I would say this is probably my 5th or 6th presentation so far.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I was going to say there's nothing more exciting than public meetings, especially virtual ones. So.
It is helpful.
Are there any other questions from council? And I cannot see everyone at the moment, so feel free to speak up if. All right. Are there any questions from the public? And Dana, did we receive any communications on this ordinance or resolution? Great. Well, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to bring out temporary resolution A85 for a vote next week.
So moved.
Second.
I hear a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. That motion carries, and we will vote on that next week. Thank you so much, Marcy. It's great seeing you, and enjoy the rest of your meetings.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks. And if there's no more business to come.
Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mayor.
If I could, during your committee meeting, I'd like to give a storm update, if I may.
Oh, please do, sir.
Obviously, as you know, we had some high winds last night, so I wanted to give a snapshot of what happened and where we're at right now. So obviously on a Sunday, we brought in the full contingent of electric crews, everyone we could get. We had, as of 8:30 this morning, poles down, wires down, trees down all over the city. We had 81 separate instances of damage. Those are separate locations, mainly trees taking down power lines that needed cleared and then reconnected. So as they went through all those 81, and there's just a handful left to where maybe AT&T needs to put up a pole so we can reattach the service. But just think how high the winds were. And if you went outside yesterday, I know most of us were up most of the night. Anthony, Teresa, thank you, and Mike Doherty, Rod Troxel, and all our workers. They worked throughout the night, got some quick sleep, came back in today to finish getting people back in power. But imagine if you were outside walking around or even driving, that they're up in bucket trucks and climbing poles in 50-mile-an-hour winds. So they're out there doing a great job for us. Again, a phenomenal job, a lot of damage throughout the city. No injuries that I'm aware of. Thank God there was no injuries. Everything else can be fixed and replaced. But trees across the road, those have been cleared out of the roadway to be cleaned up at a later date. So Anthony, Teresa, did you have anything to add to that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mayor. No, I don't really have any additional comments to that other than to echo your words of thanks to all of our workers in the electric department and the street department that were out there in those adverse conditions yesterday. And once again, they did a great job for the citizens of Cuyahoga Falls.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Anthony. And I'll definitely echo your thanks for all the men and women in our street department and our electric department and our safety forces who were providing services in the dangerous environment. It was, the winds were quite incredible last night. I know I was on Chestnut and I noticed one of the trees that came down brought down an electric wire and uprooted the sidewalk right there. So I know there's a lot of, and I'm sure there was a lot I did not see. So again, please pass along our thanks for all of their hard work, and truly appreciated. And I know I don't want to say this because I'm sure my power will go out the second I'll say it, but I've never had a power issue at my home here. We've been very fortunate and very reliable with our public power. Are there any other comments from council or questions from council about the update that the mayor and Anthony provided, or any questions about the storm? Councilman Gorbach.
Yeah, thanks. I would just throw in there, not to forget about dispatch, because they were working their tails off. I had to make a call and I cringed making it because I knew they were slammed. I had a tree knock my power line down. I still had power. Everything stayed connected. It's just 6 inches off my lawn is all. But she answered, put me on hold briefly, answered the call. Sorry for the delay. And I'm thinking, I know you're busy. You don't have to be sorry, So I know they were under a lot of stress. I just didn't want to forget them.
Thank you very much. I agree. Any other members of council or the public that have any questions or comments? All right, not seeing any. If there's no further business to come before the Public Affairs Committee, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
It is 7:03 and the Community Development Committee will come to order. We do have meeting minutes to approve from September 21st. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections that need to be made? Hearing none, the minutes should stand approved. We have one piece of legislation to consider. It is A86, substitute dated 11/16/2020. An ordinance approving and authorizing the mayor to execute and submit the annual action plan to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for program year 2020 and declaring an emergency. I believe we have Peggy Zalay to speak on this behalf. If you'd like to.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of council, mayor, everyone. I'm here this evening to present the Cdbg 2020 Annual Action Plan. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the 2020 annual action plan submission date was extended by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Entitlement communities have been given till August 16th of 2021 to submit their 2020 action plan. Normally, you would have seen me in maybe July with this, but because of the pandemic, we had to push it out a little bit. The Community Development Department has worked diligently to get the City of Cuyahoga Falls plan into place prior to 2021. Early submission of the 2020 action plan will help keep Cuyahoga Falls moving forward, assisting our residents and businesses with funding that does not come until the 2020 annual action plan submission approval. I understand that the council has been provided with draft copies of the plan. If the residents and the stakeholders would like to read over the 2020 annual action plan, it is available on the City of Cuyahoga Falls website. It is located under Government and Community Development in the menu. That's www.cityofcf.com for those who are listening. I would love to receive ideas and comments from the public on how we might use the community development block grant funding to assist lower income individuals. Please send any ideas or comments that you might have to me. Attention Peggy Zaley, Cdbg Administrator at the City Building, 2310 2nd Street, Cuyahoga Falls, 44221. To satisfy public meeting requirements for the Department of Development, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, the City Council meeting that is scheduled for next week is going to be considered the public meeting for HUD purposes. It's slightly different than the public meetings that you would normally have for City Council. The public comment period will extend till November 23rd. And it is my hope that we'll have some ideas and comments from the public next weekend and stakeholders and council members as well. I look forward to answering any questions that you might have regarding the 2020 action plan. Some of the highlights on the action plan, you would notice if you looked it over, you would notice that in the past, most of the projects were listed under 4 projects: admin, public service, housing, and economic development. We have broken out those projects into 16 different projects. So the projects based aren't really new. There's a couple new ones on there. We have increased affordable housing initiative because we're trying to build up our housing because we have more people than we have housing in Cuyahoga Falls. And also one of the other new things that we're going to be doing is the South State Road Facade Improvement Matching Grant Program. So if you have any questions about those new programs, I'd love to answer them. But like I said, they're basically the same, just broken out so that you can see exactly what we're doing. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Does anyone from the committee have any questions or comments? Does anyone from council have any questions or comments? Ms. Mary Nichols?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say, so it is a great report and I like it split up into the 16. It does make it more clear. But I don't recall if we did this before, but I really like that there's money going for a derby car for the Price and Preston students to build a car, basically, right, for the derby. And there are a couple specific things for the east side of Cuyahoga Falls, which I know is appreciated by many. And that's it. It's a great CDBG is a great project, and I'm really appreciative that we received those funds, and it's very well administrated. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions from council or comments? I don't see any. I'm looking through the pages. A little housekeeping thing that the CD committee that we do. This is again a substitute. It's A86 substitute on 11/16/2022 to the some number changes if you are in front of you. So I need to do a motion to amend this 86 substitute dated 11/16/2020. Do I have?
Councilwoman Penta, I'm having a little difficulty understanding you.
Okay. This meeting now. No, okay. Hold on. Let's. All right, can you hear me now? No. Better? No. Okay.
We can hear you, Mika. It just consistently breaks up, but I think we get the gist. You were looking for a motion to amend A86 by substitute dated 11/16/2020.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, I don't know if someone from the committee has to do
There's no
that.
video. It won't. Where? Oh. I can't get anything to work here.
We can hear you better.
Sound better now.
Yes, that is what I'm trying to do.
Does that have to be from someone from the committee?
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Second. Thank you. So we have the amended substitute A86. So now I believe I need to do at this time, we'll entertain a motion to approve A86 substitute 11/16/2020 out of committee and with a favorable recommendation for a vote on November 23rd.
So moved. Oh. Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying yes.
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 Yes. It passes 3-0. We will vote on A86 substitute dated 11/16/2020 on November 23rd. And that concludes community development.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Penta. It's 7:12. I'm going to call the Finance Committee back into session. We have remaining to continue to discuss the ordinance temporary A78 presented by the administration, an ordinance establishing annual appropriations of money for the current expenses, capital expenditures, and other expenses of the city of Cuyahoga Falls for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2021, and declaring an emergency. First, I'll ask, are there any questions or comments from what we've discussed thus far? Moving right into tonight's agenda then, the first item is the Capital Projects Fund. Brian, were you gonna do your screen share or do you want us to just turn to page 37?
I'd be happy to share it. Let me get to the top of the page, okay. Everybody see that okay?
I can see it fine.
Okay. This is the capital projects page on page 37, starting at the top. And I don't know how you want to do this, Chairman Gorbach. We may go through the entire sheet if we want to ask questions on the program. We did provide the budget highlight sheet that just kind of describes some of the revenue changes from year to year, as well as some of the capital projects that we've done. On the capital project side of things, I think the city is very infrastructure heavy, as we've been prioritizing infrastructure over the past several years. I've listed a few highlights there in that capital projects list of items there. So that's kind of that's kind of capital projects in a nutshell, but I'd be happy to go through this list if you would like me to.
Right, I guess, right, you do have the highlights there, and I think let's highlight the transfer in with the income tax, and that's gonna rear up in a couple different conversations that we have, but that is down because of the percentage that goes into the capital projects fund. But the income tax, as we discussed before, is lower due to the COVID issue that we've all been experiencing.
That is correct, yes. And that's not a stagnant number there. If we do see income tax revenues coming in better in 2021, that number will go up by the percentage that the income taxes is coming in. So it's a best guess estimate that we have come up with that we discussed in prior weeks. So hopefully we'll see our economy coming back strong in 2021.
I hope so too. We can go through, I mean, I guess, we're all adults, so we've had the budget. It's not really for me to spoon feed it. This is pretty much your show, Brian. I'm just directing traffic. I want to make sure that we hear what we want to hear, but I guess, does anybody from the committee have any questions regarding anything in the 5-year projection, and or maybe comments why the administration is concentrating on certain projects in certain years and not in other years? Because I guess that's really what our platform is deciding, do we agree with how this is laid out, or do we think as individuals or a body that these monies should be directed differently, whether it's department-wise or year-wise. I'm not saying that any comments have to speak to those specific issues, but I guess that's where I'm coming from, is how I feel our role is. Having said that, and I can't see everybody either, but are there any questions or comments from the committee, first of all, regarding the Capital Projects Fund? I don't hear, if you have a comment, speak up. I don't hear anybody. Anybody from council or that would like to hear about a specific project?
Mr. Chair, if I could, I know one of the hot topics is always street paving, the resurfacing.
Yes.
That's at an all-time high at $3 million. And then that does not even include Chestnut, which will happen also next year, which is a total of another $500,000. And then Steels was slated for 21. Actually,
Right.
It was in their fiscal year 21, although that's been completed. So I would say this is the most we've ever done. I hope it equates to lane miles and the petroleum price is down when we do this next year, but it should be substantial to get caught up on some of these streets. And I know Tony's done a good job with the rating system and identifying what all needs done.
I think, thanks for bringing that up, Mayor, and thanks for pointing out that doesn't include Chestnut, because that's a big number. And you've spoken before to council about, trying to increase that, not only trying, succeeding in increasing it and catching up from many years past where we were stagnant in our expenditure and those line items, and the projects were getting away from us a little bit, and we're playing catch up. And a lot of these projects are being done throughout the city and a lot of main thoroughfares, and certainly I think most of the residents have to be noticing this additional work is being done. It's always a work in progress, but I know I appreciate everything you guys are doing and putting the money towards that. I've talked before, we receive monies and give it back to the community in form of services. And this is one that we definitely hear a lot about, is roads, roads, and roads. And being able to put this money back into it is certainly appreciated, at least by this member of council. Are there any other comments or questions regarding any of the projects laid out in the Capital Projects Fund?
Chairman Gorbach?
Yeah, yes.
Thank you. It's Balthus.
Oh,
I would just like to piggyback on what the mayor just said. The first city budget that I looked at probably 6 or 7 years ago, we were spending, I believe it was 1.5 million, if that, on the road. So it's quite exciting to be at the point where we've now doubled it. Also, not even including the $500,000 on Chestnut. But I also just wanted to point out the investment with the Zurich Trail TIF of $2 million, which I am very excited about that project. Those of us who are familiar with TIFs, it's a way that we can do infrastructure projects without taking money or having a revenue stream associated with that to help not take away from other projects. And I know there was just a lot of community involvement in that process. The public was very involved. I'm sure they'll continue to be involved, which I think is great. And I think the administration has really gone out of their way to hear that public comment and to take that into account. Lots of public meetings. I think that it's all great. And I just would like to take this opportunity to thank again the administration for doing it, particularly Anthony and Tony, and of course the mayor for all of their work on getting us where we're at with that. And I believe, if I recall, and correct me, Tony, if I'm wrong, I think that might be out, or some of that work might be out for bid right now. And I'm excited about that project. I think it will improve safety and it'll do a lot to just improve the roads out there. So thank you.
Yeah, I agree. We're doing projects out there that I don't know how else we would have been able to do them aside from the financing and the projects that are happening out there. And there's people that I don't know, was it water or is it gas? They didn't have natural gas out there, so there's a lot of meaningful improvements and safety, certainly, as we heard about the state of Zurich at the time we were discussing the project was definitely in need of some improvements. A lot of people bike out there, and it's exciting. You're right, Mr. Balthus. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
It's Mary. I have a question maybe for Mr. Zumbo. I'm not sure. The City Hall bathroom rebuild, it's for 4 separate years, and it looks like one bathroom is getting a short shrift because it's $10,000 less. But I just wondered, is that 1 year per bathroom, and what's the plan there? I don't know who to ask. Oh, thank you, Anthony.
Yeah. Thank you, Councilwoman. Yes, we are going to be attacking the bathroom rebuilds here in City Hall, sort of one floor at a time. And so those are our estimates thus far to get through them. I believe we're starting on the 3rd floor and working our way down. If my memory serves me right, I believe that John Ball is on the call today, and he can supplement with anything else that I've left out. But yeah, that's our plan, to rebuild them 1 floor at a time.
Okay, thank you very much. I can attest they need redone. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Mike Brillharder. I'm in favor of all these projects, but there was 3 that I'd like to just point out that I'm really pleased. The Boardwalk Transformation Project, I spent a lot of time down on Front Street, and I think that's great to update that. And then the traffic signal at 2nd and Northland, I know that's been talked about by residents, and I've had a few of my constituents talk to me about that. I think that's sorely needed, and that's great that that's in there. And then the other one is the charging stations. I think once again, City of Cuyahoga Falls is in the lead here, and electric vehicles are going to be very prominent in the next couple of years. And I think it's great that we're doing that. Thank you.
I'm glad you pointed that out, Mike. How many charging stations does 100,000 allow us to have?
I do not know. We have a grant.
Not
We're gonna get as many.
finally get an answer. I could have said I don't know.
We have a grant for about $100,000 through NOPEC. And I know that Ms. Nichols Rhodes has been an advocate on this, and we've had I forget what we're calling it now. It's a green team of sorts.
Yeah.
Made up of several members, and we have been looking at what can we use these NOPEC grants for, and one of the areas that we thought would be most impactful, I think, was charging stations. I believe we're looking at those in the new parking lot that is associated with the DD development down on Front Street as a way to help promote charging and electric vehicles. The other place that we would be looking at probably is in the Nat parking lot in some area over there.
Okay. Good suggestions. I know with Ms. Nichols Rhodes on that team, we're going to get as many as possible. So I have confidence that it'll all be spent.
Mr. Gorbach, I'm sorry, I cannot give you an exact number, but we did find out that the superchargers are really not worth it. And so the electric vehicle chargers we would get would be like, let's say $3,000 a piece. I mean,
I would think they would have been more than that. Okay, yeah. That's great.
Yeah, the superchargers are significantly higher in price, but not necessarily worth it.
Right. So the charging stations themselves are that much, and then we have to do whatever work we need to do to get the electric to those charging stations. But still, that's encouraging that they're not that much money to start with.
Yeah.
Mr. Gorbach?
Yes.
It's Jerry.
Hi, Jerry.
Hi there. I just wanted to echo what Mike was saying about the traffic light at 2nd and Northland. That's been a sore spot with a bunch of my residents for years. All the complaining about people coming off that expressway exit and speeding down 2nd Street. Mm-hmm. Finally, we're going to get something that's going to stop that and curtail that. And I'm very, very happy about that. And I'm sure the residents are going to be very happy about it also.
Good to hear. Any other comments or questions for the, excuse me?
Mr. Chair, if I could.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
And Jerry, I'm sure you'll notice this, but the Bailey Road crossing will get the quad gates. And again, I want to thank Tony DeMasi for working with the railroad. Sometimes that can take a decade. But anyhow, the quad gates are impervious, so you cannot drive around. And there's instances, it doesn't happen too often, but a train will go by and the gates stay down and cars will start to go around thinking there's a malfunction. Well, there's double tracks and there could be a train coming the other way. So it will eliminate that totally. One of the biggest benefits of this safety upgrade of quad gates is the trains will not need a horn because no cars can get through. So Jerry, I know River Estates, we talked about this probably 10 years ago. Yep. Wouldn't it be great to have a silent crossing? We did it at Broad, as you know. We didn't need the quad gates. There was another way we could do it there with Harbor Castings and Tech Service and the service department. The quad gates was the only way to make this impervious. So that should happen this year. It'll be a very safe crossing and a lot less noisy crossing for those in River Estates.
Oh yeah, River Estates and all the way down Monroe Falls Avenue also. That's another wonderful project. So thanks everybody on that one too.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Nope. Okay. Let's move to page 141 is police. Chief, you still with us? I am. I can't, I'm looking for you. I can't find, I thought maybe you ducked out.
No. This is exciting stuff.
Flattery will get you a yes vote every time. Brian, did you have an overview you wanted to give us, or do you want Chief Davis to jump in?
From the police budget, I don't believe that there's anything that is out of the ordinary here. It's just a normal year for police. As we discussed in the past, salary and benefits are flat. We do have slight increases in the other operations line items, as I mentioned on the highlight sheet.
Right.
Most of that is due to non-discretionary items, which are the compensated absences fund funding source, and also internal garage charges, because police and fire are two largest departments in the general fund. They do take up the majority of that allocation. So that's the majority of the increase there. There's a couple of increases for some safety clothing and vests on the other operations, but other than that, this is very normal and straightforward budget, not doing anything out of the ordinary here.
Very good. Just that's how it looks. And I agree. Chief, I didn't ask you this question earlier. I'm not looking to put you on the spot or anything, but can you give us just a general overview of how the firing range is working? I'm not looking for any specific revenue numbers or expenses, but just overall how it's working for our folks. And I believe we have other communities using it. If you could just speak to that and how you feel that project has turned out now that you've have some use under your belt with it.
I can tell you it's been great. I mean, first of all, the fact that we have a place for our officers to train regularly without being nomads and moving around has been spectacular. We have rented it out quite a bit. We had some agencies that really we weren't expecting to rent it as well. We're forming some partnerships going into next year, even with some additional departments that are going to make it their primary training facility. As far as like budgetary, right now we're way ahead, I guess, on revenues over expenses, which is good, but we can have to replace the filters tomorrow and that'll cut into that.
Yeah.
It's basically the more you use it, the more, expenses you're going to have with changing the filters and those lines.
Sure.
So far, so good. We've actually gotten through this year without having to change the filters, which is one of the larger costs. We did do one lead remediation where we were able to sell some of the lead to get a credit with Action Target for purchases we make from them. So that's to the plus. And then we also hosted several schools out there, which saved us from having to pay for training. We were able to get free spots by hosting the training. We got about $4,000 plus in training schools.
That's great.
So with all the COVID and just the weirdness of this year, it was hard to really get a good feel of it. But I think we're very comfortable where we were at with our price point and rentals. Everybody is blown away by the facility. It's just a nice, clean, very well laid out facility, and Captain Schaefer and his crew, the training crew, have just really kept it up well.
That's great. That's good to hear. And not only did you got the free spots for the $4,000, but you didn't have to pay for the transportation to go elsewhere for the training. So that's all good news. You talked about it like that's how it was going to work out, and we all thought that that's how it's going to work out. And I'm glad it's coming together like that. And especially with the agencies you said that you've had use it that you didn't expect. So that's just more word of mouth in your world for other people to come. So that's great. I'm glad it's working out.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate this year. And like I said, with the COVID, we were a little bit concerned, but I think, again, this year was probably above expectations, and I'm expecting next year to be good as well.
Yeah, good to hear. Do you have anything you want to highlight, Chief, on your budget? Some of the stuff is, typical purchases. Are there any purchases in this budget or even in capital that you want to speak to?
Probably one of the biggest projects we got coming up next year that's kind of new and exciting for us would be the body cameras. I don't know if council, if you've heard a lot from our citizens. Obviously, it's been a hot topic in law enforcement, and it's something. Yes, we've had dash cams. We were probably one of the forerunners in the area with dash cams. So we've had recording devices for many years, and really they've helped us. The officers really just have come to depend on them. They use them quite often. So we're still recording quite a bit of our contacts. This The system that we're looking into will work with our dash cams, so you'll still get the stationary camera as well as the body mic, body camera as well. So that'll be a big project we're going into next year, finishing up the countywide CAD project. It'll be great to get that record management system up and running. I think it's going to save a lot of time and just really help our reporting. So those are some of the things going into next year that I think will be exciting, a little bit different for us, and a little bit new challenge.
Yes, good. How's your team holding up, all your officers and stuff during this crazy time? Everybody?
They're great.
Yeah.
We, like I said, we have just a wonderful crew, from supervisors down to, the last patrolman we hired. We've been fortunate. We really get the good hires. I've been really satisfied with them. We're looking to hire some more, so we're in that process now. We have a test coming up.
Good.
Hopefully we'll get some good numbers applying. They've been holding up really well. We've been healthy. I think we've had one COVID case this whole year, and we don't believe he got it at work, but it's kind of hard to tell. He thinks he got it at his brother's wedding. So, but other than that, yeah, everybody's been good. Some, injuries that we always get. It's kind of a rough and tumble job, but yeah, we're very fortunate. We have really good officers out there working for us every day.
Right. Well, we're all fortunate, and it's no accident how good they are with the leader they have. And I'm not just blowing smoke, I mean it. You have a number of small funds that go along with your regular, I guess, police department budget. Before you get into those, I guess I'll shoot to the Finance Committee and then anybody else at the rail. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Chief Davis at this time?
Councilman Gorbach?
Yeah, Mr. Balthus.
Thank you.
Sure.
I just want to kind of piggyback on what you and the chief were just saying. I don't think we can say it enough of the high quality men and women that we have serving in our police department. I had the unique and lucky opportunity to work with them as a law director for a number of years. And you're exactly right about the leadership in that department and the hard work that they do. And they deserve our thanks every year for what they do for us. But this year particularly, I think about the fact that, I get to work at home to keep me safe, and I appreciate my employer doing that. But, the men and women who work in our police department and other positions in the city may not have that luxury. And, as the chief just said, they aren't complaining. They're out there and they're working to keep us all safe. And I just would appreciate it. And I know Captain Schaefer's on the call or on the Zoom as well. So if both of you could just pass along our thanks for what they're doing and letting them just know that it doesn't go unnoticed and it is truly appreciated. And we sincerely thank them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Balthus. Any other questions or comments for Chief Davis? Okay, Jack, do you want to talk about quickly, just we have it on our department highlight sheet. I don't know if you're looking at that. I know you don't need it, but the first one is the law enforcement. Oh, we've got, okay, Brian's bringing it up. Do you want to just give us a quick overview of those funds and what you do with them and what your plans are?
Yeah, the supplemental funds, like the 214 and the 215 fund, they come from seizures and drug funds. We get some of that from being a part of the Summit County Drug Unit. I think we got a $10,000 dispersal from them earlier this year, roughly $10,000. So that, the money's hard to know when it's coming in and when it's not. I mean, sometimes you get some good seizures, sometimes you don't. But it really helps us out with like a lot of our SWAT purchases, our training purchases. We were able to use that money for those purposes outside the general fund. So again, you have to be a little bit careful because you don't know what's going to come in from those. Some certain fines go to them, but mainly, again, they're used to supplement like our narcotics enforcement, as well as a lot of our SWAT activities. So we're fortunate to have those.
Just for everyone's edification, the just on a higher level, on each of these funds, the revenue coming in, is it different types of revenue? Is that why we have the different funds? And
Yes.
also to the, thank you, and then to the expenses, are you limited to what type of expenditures you can make with the different funds?
Yes, they all have some different rules, set forth by the money that comes into them. Again, the 214 is primarily from drug fines and drug seizures. So we tend to use that for our narcotics. The 215 is also a lot of seizures, drug fines, stuff like that. Again, we can use for training purposes. Basically the rules are you can't use it for normal general expenses, if that makes sense to you. They don't want you to just pay your normal everyday bills out of those funds. That's not what they were set up for. Funds like the 217 or from DUI fines, so they have to be used mainly for traffic enforcement, or education, and DUIs. The 222 fund was one, it's really just a number that we gave it. What that was when the state was budgeting for continuing education and training. The state has not budgeted for that the last few years. That's why you haven't seen revenue coming in for that. And what that was to help compensate cities for the overtime and stuff it costs for the continuing education. Now the state no longer really requires a certain number of hours of continuing education, so that's why they don't budget for it and pay for it. But our department's, again, fortunate. We have our own in-house training department, and regardless of what the state requires, we still do a heavy load of in-service training every year with our officers.
Okay.
But that money, again, it doesn't look replenishable. So pretty much it's been nice to be able to help supplement our training budget outside of the general fund, but it's up to the legislation whether they pass that again.
Sure. I'm going to stop you there, Chief. Are there any questions for the Chief regarding any of these funds, the usage thereof, or anything at all?
Mr. Chairman, this is Mary. I was going to ask if I could ask Chief Davis, please.
Yeah.
I was going to ask if you thought that those monies might come back, the training funds, but it sounds like not, since they're
it's fun. I can tell you, it's just funny from what we're hearing from the state is, again, they're talking about mandating more training, and Attorney General Yost has talked about that. So he's pushing for them to get it back in the legislation so they can, again, start requiring, some mandatory training. Whether the state does in the budget or not with their budget cuts, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. That's a shame. But I do want to say that the leadership in the department, Chief Davis, that the culture of service and respect, it starts at the top. And we do have a phenomenal department of people. I absolutely know that. And you and I met long ago when I was first on council. And I was very heartened and confident in our hiring practices, that our department, not all departments, as well, maybe not everybody knows, but they don't even all require psychological testing, but we do. And we have a long period of when people are on probation and they're working with another officer, and a lot of testing to kind of ferret out bias. And so I'm very proud of our department and how hard we work at finding the best people to serve the citizens of Cuyahoga Falls. So that's very appreciated. And our training has always been many steps ahead of any requirements. So thank you for that.
Thank you. We're very fortunate. Our trained officers are great. Captain Schaefer leads them, and they're well known throughout the area. I mean, they're just, again, quality people.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chief.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you brought that up about our department is one of the ones that does the psychological training, because I don't know if everyone knows that we do that, and that it's not mandatory to hire to do that. So that was great to point that out.
Tim, it's Jerry.
Yes, Jerry.
Yeah, just a quick statement. I say this every year when the budget comes around for our safety forces, in that Just a quick, concise, you guys are second to none, Jack. You guys are the best. And you hold your heads high. You always do, it seems like, the right thing. And I have absolutely nothing but the highest respect and regard for our safety forces. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions regarding the budget or questions for Chief Davis? No? Okay. All right. Thanks, Chief.
Hey, just a quick note.
Yes.
You know, we appreciate all the accolades and stuff, but we can't do it without your guys' support and the administration support. So we do appreciate that from the police department.
Thank you. Communications, page 149. Brian, is this you?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. The police department does supervise this is the dispatch budget. So the police department does supervise that. So if there's any questions, there is one change on this in this budget. Currently, we have 11 dispatchers in our dispatch center. In the 2021 budget, we do propose increasing that by 1 to 12 and decreasing part-time from 7 to 3 budgeted part-time employees. I think Captain Schaefer can speak more intelligently on this, but one of the issues that the dispatch center has been facing over the years has been the availability of maintaining and keeping part-time dispatchers. Majority of our part-time dispatchers are retired full-time dispatchers, and a lot of those people are retiring again. So it's getting harder and harder to keep part-time dispatchers in there. So one of the items that we discussed this year was trying to get another full-time dispatcher in there to help supplement that and take off some of the pressure of trying to keep these employees on our payroll and working. It is a pretty large cost of trying to train dispatchers and keep them going. So keeping employees in this department it does help save money from that side of the coin. And so that's one of the reasons why we proposed putting in another full-time dispatcher. But that is the only difference in this area here.
Okay, thanks. And Chief, did you want to, I had mentioned a little bit about the dispatchers whenever we were talking about the storm. Did you want to comment on the dispatchers? I know you have your captain on the line as well.
Yeah, I mean, Captain Schaefer can probably answer more detailed questions about this, but realistically, again, most of our part-timers are either retired dispatchers or they're working full-time at another dispatch center. So how long they may want to do that is kind of up in the air. It is a highly technical job. We're very fortunate. We have a great group of dispatchers, but the training takes so long. And for somebody to come in and just do it part-time, it really, if they don't work out, you've really invested a lot of time and energy for somebody that maybe can't cut it. Where with the full-time, again, we can get them in. That way they're actually training, 40 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's very worthwhile. Just the difficulty, again, of finding the part-time people. But same thing, like I said, when I talk about the officers, it really applies to the dispatchers as well. They're very dedicated. They're very hardworking. Like you said, you evidenced it the other day with a power outage. I mean,
mm-hmm.
I remember when they were in the station and when we had a power outage, I mean, literally the phones rang through every phone in the building. And everybody was answering phones and just trying to say, okay, where you at, stuff. So
right.
It gets crazy in there, and we're lucky they're very dedicated. So that's what I can add to that.
I can't imagine. I don't like when mine rings. Captain Schaefer, I know you're on the line. Did you have any comments regarding the dispatch?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
No, I think Brian summed it up and the chief summed it up pretty clearly. We've been very fortunate, and part-time has worked for us for a lot of years with the having several retired dispatchers fill in as part-time Barbary, Diane Allen, and Robert Johnson. All three of those retired this year, finally, and I think some of them served almost 40 years total for the police department and the dispatch center. But with the loss of those part-timers and that experience, it's just not, part-time's just not replaceable anymore. We just don't have anybody retiring to fill those spots.
Right. Very good. Thank you, Captain. Any questions from the committee or council regarding our dispatch center? Okay. Thanks, guys. Let's move to fire, page 173. And I think I saw Assistant Chief Martin was on the line earlier. I can't see everybody here, though. Let me scroll through.
I am here, Tim. I believe Fred is as well, though.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, Chief Jack. Oh, Chief, I didn't see that you were on here too. Okay, great.
Okay.
Two of you. What did you do, Chris, to deserve to have to be on this call? You in the doghouse?
Yeah, I'm not sure what Fred has against me, but here I am.
Well, we won't.
No,
we
it's always a
won't.
pleasure.
We won't look
Always
to
a pleasure
find.
to be with you.
We won't look to find out. I guess pretty much run this, Chief, the same way we did the police. Do you? First, I'm going to ask Brian if he has any particulars from his vantage point, and then I'll ask you, Chief Jackson, if some highlights that you want to give us, and certainly I'm going to ask you how Station 3 is going. But Brian, how about it?
Very similar story to fire as we discussed with police. A modest increase to other operations. There are very small discretionary increases to a couple of line items, are very small. And then the others are non-discretionary, similar to the same categories as police and compensated absences.
Right.
And a couple others. So nothing new there. The salary and benefits line items are essentially flat as well. And so same old with the police budget. So nothing going on.
Okay, very good. And then Chief Jackson, now that you guys have some time in Station 3, what's your report?
Yeah, let me share that Station 3 is working remarkably well. It's certainly a tremendous replacement from what was sitting there before. What was there before was over 50 years old. It was built in days of coming out of World War I and World War II, where we built most fire stations like commercial or military stock Quonset huts. They were just slabs with walls around them. That building, we really kind of took the model of what a hazmat scene would look like, and we identified it kind of as hot, warm, and cold. Hot being the most contaminated, where the fire trucks and ambulances park. Warm is the common areas and public areas, and then the cold area being where the firefighter paramedics live around the clock. And with this being a worldwide pandemic, we're really seeing that prove to pay off just tremendously, because it does create a great separation from people that need to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, sleep in quarters for a 24-hour window of time in pretty close proximity to other workers, yet we can give them some separation from the tools and equipment they need to do their job. So it's working quite well in those regards.
Great.
If I may, I'll add a couple more things. Our Tower
Please.
3 that we put there, it's our 110-foot platform. It's been to a few fires. It's paid off tremendously well as well. Assistant Chief Martin and the committee put that together, did a great job. That's been a good truck for us. It's worked tremendously well. And it gives us a tool that we just didn't have in our arsenal before. So that's a great piece that we've added there. As you know, you probably want to hear a little bit about COVID. We're living through that pandemic. We've had 9 of our firefighters to date infected by COVID. So we're doing a little bit better than the average in the healthcare industry. The average is about 15%. So we're running just a little over 10%. Most of our people have got infected, just like Chief Davis was saying, somewhere else. We spent a lot of time in tracing and looking at where it came from. Most people are getting it from traveling or going to areas of bigger groups, or being our most recent person from their own personal gym. 60% of the people at their gym all got COVID this month. So those are the things that get us all. Everyone on the call, wear your mask, wash your hands, social distance. I know we're all getting fatigued, we're all getting tired, but we just have to stay the course. We have to stand strong. It's groups that are getting together, it's weddings, it's funerals. Across the county, trick-or-treating just occurred. Different communities did it differently. You know, we tried a very safe approach here, and I think that probably served us well.
Mm-hmm.
But getting together and people getting tired and saying they've had enough, that's where we're seeing our issues across the county, and that's where people are still getting sick.
Right.
We were very aggressive early on. We got some new equipment, a device called AIM-STAT, which is a nebulizer that puts a mist into the air. We clean the ambulances, the stations on a regular basis. Every week they're getting sanitized that way. UV light, cleaners, protective equipment. In some regards, we're lucky Ebola came here before, because we bought a tremendous amount of equipment because of Ebola.
Mm-hmm.
And we had that on reserve when this hit us. So otherwise we would have been in a much different dynamic, and we would have been very short on protective gear.
Right.
The coveted N95 masks that all of us used to have a few out in the garage for sanding drywall on a Saturday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
It became a near priceless commodity. And we just now placed an order that they promised we're actually going to receive. American-made real 3M masks that are not counterfeit. They're actually made to spec. We've been promised a load of 2,500 of those, which will prepare us to get us through this newest wave that's coming.
Right.
And that seems to be here right now. We saw a wave in late winter into spring, very early summer, where we saw a lot of COVID in the county. We thought it was a lot. We, in the last week, the amount of COVID we had a week ago was about the same as it was at our worst back in the spring, early summer. And just the last week, that number, again, we're going back to where we were in the spring at our worst. That number has doubled in the last week that we're seeing in Cuyahoga Falls and Summit County. So COVID is certainly right here. It's haunting us. It's tough, and into the rest of November and December, early January is going to be tough for all of us. I think we're going to see a lot of it. I think our hospitals are going to be full. I think there's literally going to be no room at the end. So it's time to take it very serious and watch out for one another and do what you can to prevent it if you can, prevent it within your families, etc.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's just a tough thing.
Yeah, I appreciate the words. I mean, and you're right. And, you know, Mr. Balthus made the comment how appreciative he was of his employer allowing them and or having instructions that their employees work at home, and that's kind of his office. Your guys' office and you know, the police department's office is out in the community, regardless if we're in a valley or a hill on this COVID line. And you don't get to decide you're not going to go into the house where you get a call, and you don't get to decide to not, you know, go assist the crash victims. I mean, that's what you're trained for, and I know that's what you want to do, but talk about adding another element of fear to the job, you know, what's now invisible. And and I guess I'll speak for myself. I kind of forget that, that the safety forces are going into those conditions and having no idea, as you said, Chief, that someone just came from the gym or came from a large gathering, or maybe even getting called into a large gathering. So your words ring true and deep on how we need to persist and stay safe and do our part. And I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Do you have some highlights beyond the fire station for any expenditures you have going on this year in your department?
Sure. Let me hit just a few of the highlights. Looking at some of the things in capital moving forward, and I'll just speak to next year and the year or two that even follows. But
sure,
once we put a generator at Station 4, we'll have generators at every station. On days like yesterday, that proves to be tremendously valuable. Next year, ladder 2 will get replaced with new engine 2. So we're going to put a fast, what's called a city pumper on that side of town. So something small, maneuverable, quick to get around on the streets we see on the east side of our city. We now have finally completed a multi-year project where every firefighter has 2 complete sets of firefighting gear. We need to get a little bit more equipment to stock that equipment up so that they have pliers and screwdrivers and the little items they need for that. Second set of gloves, those things. So you'll see that's the reason there's some modest increases in some of the line items within our operational budget. The Knox system, those of you that have businesses are familiar, it's a universal keyed system to where we can have access to buildings throughout the city without having to have a gigantic key ring of 1,000+ keys on it. We carry one master key, lets us into a box, and then that lets us into buildings as we need to.
Let me interrupt you right there. I'm sorry, Chief. So that system, how does that work with existing lock boxes on existing buildings?
Yeah, the systems that are already there, the new system will continue to work with that, with a key, a mechanical key. But the new system also is electronic. So just like many of the realtors have gone to an electronic system that can be opened remotely, either through our trucks or smart devices or dispatch center, the new system will still have a mechanical key for an older lock box within our city. But if you put in one starting now, we've only began to see them. But as new businesses put in a newer lock box or a new building gets put up, we're starting to see the electronic ones. And right now, today, we don't have access to that. So we'll replace all of our master Knox box systems in the vehicles with the new system. So it'll still have a key in it for the mechanical ones, but it'll also have the electronic ability to release them remotely through that technology.
Okay.
So it'll be good. Also, just a couple things. We have a little bit more gear to buy. We're going to look at training because unfortunately this year with COVID, we had to really cut back on the training we could do. So we have some modest changes there. And then we have a line item in capital for radio equipment because as the new CAD goes live, and we're looking at March of 21, Motorola and Boyle and Cannon have advised us to make sure we have some monies available for hardware we may need to replace in our stations and our trucks, the mobile radios we have. All of our portables are good to go moving forward for quite some time. But hopefully we'll see some savings there because they cannot give us exact details on what we may or may not need. And then if I just look quickly for you at the operational side, again, we have some stuff toward small tools and equipment, a little bit of an increase towards Safety Town for next year, Class A dress gear. We've had numerous occasions in the last couple of years where we've had to be dressed more formal for occasions. Some officer development stuff for executive fire schools, and then some heavier maintenance within the buildings, some station flooring and things of that nature, and some attention put to them. And that's really our budget. It's about as it has been, again, with a few modest increases on that operational side, and then some capital improvement projects moving forward.
Right. It reminded me, we approved, council approved a number of months ago, I guess it is. You were purchasing a lighting system at first specifically for Station 3, but then ended up purchasing for all the stations. Am I describing that right? It was a lighting system with different colors for when the alarms went off. Am I right about that?
Yep, you're exactly right. Yeah, thanks for bringing it up. The brand we bought is a company called Bricks. They're a newer company to the market. And the system, we call it Smart Dispatching. And actually I have a meeting tomorrow morning and we're going to go live with that system as soon as possible.
Oh, great.
And
okay.
What it will do is that its primary goal is to, one, standardize how dispatching occurs, thus making it more efficient, more timely out the door. And secondarily, or primarily, I would say, it really helps reduce cardiac stress and wear and tear upon the individuals that are receiving the alarm. The most important part. And the way it works is, and it's all installed now at dispatch and across all stations. And again, as soon as we do a little bit of training with our dispatchers and our personnel, we'll be ready to turn it on. It's been tested in every building. It's actually working at this moment. But again, we need to do some training to go live with it.
Sure.
As we go live, what'll change is instead of lights coming on at full intensity, voices over the radio coming at full intensity, it'll begin with a light coming on. It'll be red if it's a fire call. It'll be blue if it's an EMS call. It'll be yellow if it's just general information. It starts dim and gets brighter. The sound comes on low and gets louder. The voice comes on low and gets louder. By the end of this total time, which is about 30 seconds, the light will be to full intensity, and that'll vary between daytime and nighttime. Daytime's at 100%. In the middle of the night, at 30% of capacity. Sound is about the same. And then the message comes across what the call is. It also links to the smart devices in the trucks. So the computers, the iPads will receive cross streets, turn-by-turn directions, any significant information for that address, medical information as tied to the patient. All that'll be simulcast in the first 10 seconds when that call begins. And again, I hope to have that running before the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think that'll be just light years ahead for our people.
Oh yeah, sounds amazing.
Cool. So we're really thankful for all the support we got from council, the mayor, the administration, people within the county to make that possible. But yeah.
Thank you. You guys did a burn the other day, just down north of my building, because I saw the smoke.
We did, yes. Yeah. We very seldom get those opportunities anymore because just the city's getting more and more built out. There's less and less pieces of property available to be donated to be able to train on. But we have on Quick Road from the Quick family.
Yep.
The original family stead, and Mr. Quick wants to use that property for other things. So he donated that to us, and we got the majority of our firefighters through that.
Oh, great.
It was very, very tough with COVID. We end up having emergency meetings with our planning team every night. We adjusted our plans as we could with the numbers being so bad. So I issued the order that everyone had to be wearing a mask at all times. If you're in the burning building, it was your SCBA for firefighting. If you're outside, it was a surgical mask or N95.
Mm-hmm.
Kept people in the small teams of 3 each, and they rotated through the building.
Good.
And it worked out quite well. So.
Good to hear. Are there, thank you for your time and going through that, your budget, Chief. Are there any questions or comments for Chief Jackson?
Yeah, Tim, this is Jerry.
Yep, go Jerry.
Real quick again to Fred and Chris, you guys are second to none. Your force is just a wonderful force to be acquainted with. You guys put your lives on the line every day, not only with the fires, but with COVID now too. And I have nothing but praise and respect for our safety forces here. You guys should really, pat yourselves on the back because you do a great job. And I'm proud to know you guys.
Thanks. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Councilman Gorbach?
Yes, Mr. Balthus.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to echo what Jerry said, and also I just want to take a moment to congratulate Fred and Chris. I'm very, very happy to hear that. I don't want to hear that any of our firefighters have caught COVID, but I'm very happy that we're under the rate among first responders and medical professionals. And I think that's a testament to, the safety that we focus on and that you guys probably lead by example. And I also just kind of want to point out, as I was listening to these investments, why I think they're all so important. We talk about the smart dispatch, which is to help keep our firefighters healthy. We talk about getting a second set of turnout gear. And for those that may not be familiar, one of the reasons that's so important is when you have to re-wear turnout gear, there's a lot of carcinogens that the firefighters are exposed to. So there's data that supports that having 2 sets of turnout gear makes firefighters more safe. And also the equipment that we've bought for cleaning, and then the design of Fire Station 3. And I just want to applaud you and the administration for continuing to invest and make sure that we keep the men and women who work hard every day to keep us safe, that we do our part to try to keep them safe. And I think that is really important. And I just really want to thank you guys, and again, all the men and women in our fire department for the great job they do to protect us. So thank you so much, and I appreciate your time tonight, and it's good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Thanks, Russ. Any other questions or, I'm sorry. Any other questions or comments for the chief?
Yeah, Tim, one more thing.
Yeah, please, Jerry.
Yeah, Fred, I was just wondering, when it came to the burn, I know they're getting rarer and rarer for you to be able to do that, but if Tim can recall, him and I were at a burn when we were, years ago, and it was very, very, it's an eye-opening experience. And I was just wanting to suggest that if there's ever burns in the future that maybe you might, I don't know, would you still be able to put a council person or two in there?
I really wanted to invite you to this one, but with COVID going on, we thought it probably wasn't wise for you or us. But yeah, I really wanted to make that opportunity available. But what we did is our best just to try and keep us from having mass gatherings, yet be able to accomplish our training. So yeah, I hear you loud and clear. I really, really would like to make that opportunity available, and looking forward. I hear there's a couple of vaccines. We might even start to see some as early as December. We've made some connections, and our people are going to have access to some of the very first ones being released. Probably by next year, this will be better for all of us.
Yeah,
opportunities may come back.
And when the time comes, put those invitations out, because it is definitely an experience.
We will.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the chief regarding anything about the fire department?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yes, Mike Brillhart.
Mike.
I would just like to echo, if I could, to the chief and the assistant chief, everything that Jerry and Russ have said. And it's been my privilege to be in the different fire stations to look at the equipment and whatnot. And what impresses me is two things. It's the dedication and also the most minute detail. When you look at our new Tower 5, no matter what the detail is, the newer vehicles that we've got are so well thought out. And it's like going through that station and everything with the programs that we have. It's the dedication to protecting our firefighters, but also the dedication to the public, that everything is. I just really appreciate that. And I just kind of notice little details sometimes, and it's really amazing. I'm so appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brillhart. Any other questions or comments? No? Okay. All right. Thanks, Chief and Assistant Chief. I appreciate your time being here with us tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Matthew, we're going to talk about the municipal income tax fund, and you better be as exciting as the safety forces.
All right.
Matt's first budget meeting with me. He's not sure how to take it. Hey, Brian, did you want to kick it off, or did you want Matt to go?
I'd be happy to kick it off.
Okay.
Here is where the municipal income tax proceeds come in. And we do have our anticipated amount here as $23,182,811 as our best guess estimate. We did run multiple simulations trying to get this number, trying to get as best information as we had out there and what we thought may happen in 2021. In the fund expenses, we do have salary and wages of 2 employees. Matt Skitsky, who is here, is our income tax administrator, as well as Mary. She is also still with us, and those salary and benefits are there. And then we have some other operations expenses. The largest operational expense there is a $697,000. That is the contractual services amount that we anticipate. Well, I should say most of that contractual services amount is for our RETA collections. And then as you see in the revenues, we do get a portion of that back as RETA goes through their audit and calculates their actual cost of collections. We do receive a refund back. So as we discussed in previous years, when we went to the RETA contract. They hold 3% of our collections. They go through an audit, they calculate true cost of collections, and then they return a portion of that back. It is roughly about 1.5 to 2% is their actual cost of collection. So that's where those two items are shown. We do pay for refunds if a taxpayer requests a refund throughout the year or tax time. We do pay for those in the refunds line item. And other than that, those are just other miscellaneous small other operation items that we have in the fund. That's really all we do in municipal income tax is collect money and distribute to the general fund, the Parks Levy Fund, and the Capital Projects Fund. And you will see that in the transfers out here. We don't have it broken out in this number, but that is broken out on report 21. If you look at that sheet on page, don't have it on. Let's see. On page 7 of your book. And that's all I have. If Matt has anything more to add to the municipal income tax fund.
Okay, thanks, Brian. And I'm joking with Matt, but I'm not joking about the fund. It's definitely one of the most important funds. Bringing in the money it does, and depending on that, it makes a big impact on what we can do in other funds where the money's transferred to. And I don't know, Matt, if you or Brian would happen to know. Do either of you know how the city of Cuyahoga Falls has been impacted with the COVID and the shutdowns versus other cities our size? I mean, I know it depends on the makeup of the cities and where most of the jobs are and what kind of industry, but I don't know if there's any industry bulletin or information that you guys are privy to, or maybe that RETA has shared with their municipalities. But is that a question that either of you have the wherewithal to answer, how the city of Cuyahoga Falls is compared with other cities?
Yes, and I'll start with this. I'll let Matt finish this. When we put this process into place with RETA collecting our income taxes, having a income tax administrator here on staff has been a very valuable asset, and having Matt doing this job has been great. He has the time. He spends going to OTA meetings, which is the Ohio Tax Administrators Association, is where he can grab tons of information from other communities. They compare notes, and that's where you'll find that information. And he does that regularly. He's able to keep in touch with RETA regularly, and so it's been great. One of the things that I know this doesn't happen this isn't a part of the comparison with other communities, but I just want to touch base. One of the things that Matt and Mary do that I don't think gets a lot of attention is we still offer. We've had individuals from our community coming in to get tax help, and they call us here at the city, and they've even come in to get that help. So that's been a very, very valuable resource. Matt can touch on a little bit better. I think as a community, we're doing better than most communities around us, and I'll let Matt talk a little bit about where we are income tax wise collections versus other communities.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Matt Skitsky here, tax administrator. Good to see everybody. Thanks, Brian. Yeah, I think we're doing pretty well, actually, all things considered. I know revenues is down for us like it is for everybody. We're in pretty similar shape to other cities. Maybe a little bit better than some, just depends on the makeup of the city. I think one thing that helps us here is we are very diverse when it comes to the size and type of businesses we have here, and all the different industries we have in Cuyahoga Falls. That helps us actually, because I know I'm sure you're all aware just from watching the news and whatnot that some industries have been hit harder than others, like leisure and entertainment, for example. And we certainly do have that here in Cuyahoga Falls, but we have a lot of other things too that help make up for that. Whereas a city maybe that was more heavily focused in those areas might be struggling a little bit more. It's definitely helped us that we're more diverse. So I could say that on the economic side, and then from the collection side of it, being with Rita has been huge. That the timing of that was actually really fortunate because they've got great online tools, online filing, and we were able to do a lot of things digitally and remotely. And Rita had that all in place already. So we actually had 2019 as, I guess, sort of a practice year, if you want to think of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Made sure all those systems were online and working well, and they were. And then in 2020, we were able to use those pretty effectively, I think. In the end, even in a typical year, we only see about 3% of people walk in to file, and it was even much lower than that in 2020. So I think having all those tools in place was a good thing for us. And for cities that didn't have that in place, I know they had some serious challenges. If you think about it from an administrative standpoint of just having lots of people concentrated on tax day, you know, people in the city building, people waiting in line, people close together, maybe wearing masks, maybe not. And I know they had some challenges there that thankfully we were able to avoid. So I'm very pleased. I think it went pretty smoothly. And if you have anyone has any other questions, I'm happy to answer those.
That's a good point, Matt. I didn't really think about the online aspect and how important that was this year. And like you said, they've been doing it, and the infrastructure was already there. If we would have had to try to duplicate that in any sense, I don't know that we would have had the manpower or the money to facilitate that. So that is huge. I know you have software where you can converse with Rita's software package as it pertains to the city of Cuyahoga Falls. How is that working for you? Does that give you a lot of good information? Are you able to track in real time what's happening?
Yes, I am. So they have proprietary software called Retax, which I'm able to log into remotely on a secure private network. And it's got all the tax information. So if you know someone has a question or an issue, I'm able to pull up their record immediately, look at all their past years, see what the situation is, and that's been very helpful. Not just during COVID, but you know, in general, of course, being able to have all that information at your fingertips, compared to in past years where you might be able to give someone a partial answer right away, or maybe you're saying, you know, I'll have to get back to you, and then it's up to the attic to pull a bunch of hard copies of things. They've got everything available, you know, scanned, so it's all available electronically. So I think that's worked very well. Yeah.
And being with Rita, one of the advantages is their access to government records, I guess, enabling you a better idea to make sure we identify all the potential taxpayers that are residing in Cuyahoga Falls. Have you noticed that that's been an advantage to you? Has that helped increase our pool of taxpayers, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it?
Yeah, I think so. So one of the main things is they have access to the federal tax information, which we never did. We weren't able to. We weren't large enough. I think it's 500,000 people you have to have before the IRS will share that information with you. So collectively, they met that threshold, and I think that has helped our collections. Yes.
Right. And then does that also help with maybe out of town or out of state vendors? Maybe that wouldn't. I mean, how are we ensuring that those individuals are paying the taxes that they should?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that and get back to you.
Okay, very good. I want to say hi, Mary. You don't have to say hi back, but I'm glad you're still with the department. They're not going to let you leave. Does anybody have any questions regarding the income tax fund, either for Brian or Matt? No? Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mary. Information services on page 125. Brian, did you want to start this? I guess I'll ask you that every time, and then John is here, of course.
Sure, I will start this. The section on your budget highlight is very short here. It's a very similar budget, nothing new going on here. The areas that you saw some slight increases to are generally for different software maintenance items, which are hard to get around, and so we've had to do that. But other than that, it's the same story with this department as others. Nothing's changing.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Brian. John, did Brian do you justice?
He sure did. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Any, have you worked on some recent projects, or it doesn't look like a lot is changing, as you said, but do you have anything in the works that you want to talk about?
Yeah, we have kind of a project that's been ongoing since the Great Flood of 2012. We learned from that we needed to diversify where all of our applications and hardware are at, and we kind of redeployed everything in different areas, so everything's not at the city building. So all our eggs aren't in one basket.
Mm-hmm.
We're always preparing for the next disaster. We just didn't realize it was going to be a pandemic.
Yeah.
But I think during these times, we've been able to support everybody remotely. And that's due to the fact that we've worked really hard over the past few years to get use cloud services more. So people can work from at home without any additional software. As long as they have an internet connection, they can still get to their applications. They can still get to the back end office applications that we have, and they can work. It's allowing them to work from at home.
Right.
We also have the ability for people to remote access into their desktop PC, so that if they have files on their local drives here at City Hall, they can get them.
Right.
So we've done a lot of that. So we're constantly upgrading. Next year, we're going to be upgrading storage. We're running out of storage because of all the emails and all electronic filing that we have. So that's a pretty big project because not to get too technical, but we have a whole lot of data. We're up for probably over almost 20 terabyte worth of data, and that's just a lot of data to manage and to store. So and that's all backed up in several places, so that it's multiplied by 2. So
well, you have archival conditions you have to meet by law. I mean, my business, I can decide how long I want to keep something to some degree, but being a government, you have to keep a lot more stuff than private businesses, and probably for a lot longer.
Yeah, we have to keep it a lot longer, and that's what takes up the storage.
Yeah.
We're also doing a lot of support, even during COVID. We're supporting the people that are out there in the front lines that have access to other people that have COVID. So we're taking all the precautions that we can when we go out and service PCs and things of that nature.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I didn't think of that. Any questions for Mr. Koenig regarding information systems? I don't hear any. John, are you disappointed, or are you ready to call it a night?
No, I always have fun at these meetings.
Okay, you're going to do technical services too?
Correct, yes.
Okay, technical services on page 129.
Kind of the same story. This is a little more critical. Obviously, tech services can't work from home. They're essential, so they're in every day.
Yeah,
they're out there battling battling the COVID as well and making sure they stay protected, because once again, they're working on a lot of the equipment that everybody else is working on. So they're on the front lines out there, and they're doing a great job. We have a lot of stuff going on with the support of all the radios and the new CAD system and new police cars coming in that we outfit those with all the lights and sirens and everything. So they're keeping busy.
Very
We've also
good.
had we've had a bad year for traffic related issues as well. A lot of power outages that require us to go out and generate intersections to keep them running. Sometimes we've had 4 or 5 intersections that we've had to put generators on at a time due to power outages and weather and things like that. So
yeah, we've had I had power out at my house with the storm yesterday, and we have had a lot of these crazy weather instances that have caused a lot of power outages this year.
Yeah.
Again, any questions for John regarding the tech service department? Okay, let's move to building, right? Yeah, building and grounds. Who's up, Brian?
I can start it off and say the same thing I've said for every other department.
Okay.
This department doesn't take up much space on the page because things are very similar to what we've had in past years, just some slight increases in some of the line items that you'll see on your sheet. Other than that, everything is status quo in the building and grounds department. I believe John Ball is here tonight, who is the manager over building and grounds, and so he's here for any questions, I guess.
Okay, and that's what I was looking for. John, are you still with us?
I am. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
John, did you want to give us how you feel your department's been running this year and what you think next year is going to bring?
Definitely different with the COVID experience. Had to separate the staff to keep them safe. Sent most of them over to the grounds department. Kept just one Tom in the building to make sure that everything was sanitized and cleaned every day. But definitely looked different this year.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, I think all the numbers that are on there speak for themselves. I mean, if you have any specific questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you.
Sure, understood. Questions for Brian or John regarding the building and grounds department?
Councilman Gorbach?
Yeah, Russ.
Just one quick question, if you ask John. Hi, John. I know you guys have been working quite a bit on the new roof replacement. I was just kind of curious. It looks like that might be finished, but I just wondered kind of what the status was on that and how that project went.
The roof, both the flat and the metal roof, is completed, short of just a couple minor things that we added. The snow rail, there was a couple sections that we added to it. There's a gutter area that needs to be finished up. Just some punch list items is all, but for the most part, it's all done.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
It looks great. How long did that project take?
4 months, roughly.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's the life on those metal roofs?
It has a 30-year warranty, but it'll last 50 plus years.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it looks great. It was a great idea to go in that direction.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for John or Brian regarding the building and grounds maintenance fund? Nope. Okay. Hey, Brian, you had said to me, did you want to talk about the debt schedule tonight?
We can. I have it here in this packet. You'll find the debt schedule in your books on page starting on page 41, and it goes a number of pages, and the pages just represent future years, and I think we go up 5 years on the debt schedule in the book. This is where you'll find all of the debt of the city, and in total we have about a little over $29 million in debt. At the end of 21, we don't plan to increase that very much, and the modest increase is going to have a revenue source associated with it, which is the Sword Trail notes that we plan on taking out in 2021 to do that project that you touched on out there for those road improvements, or Municipal Office touched on as well.
Right.
For that. So, and that obviously will have that revenue source, which is a nice feature there, so it doesn't take away from our general capital items. So still trying to keep our debt service low and keep our debt in the city low and manageable for future years.
What's the, I mean, it's clearly it's great that there's not much of a change, especially going through the year we're going through now. Do you want to share briefly about how the debt relates to our bond rating and what percentage of budget and debt ratios that you try to keep?
Sure. So the debt's just like anyone who gets a mortgage on their home. We're looking for the best rate we could possibly get. And the way we take loans out is we sell pieces of paper to various individuals or various institutions that say we promise to pay you back. The various institutions, they can't obviously research every single bond issuer out there, every single municipality, every single school district, every single company that may be issuing bonds. So they rely on what we call rating agencies to help track and maintain reporting, and they do research on these institutions. We contract and we use Moody's. There are various rating agencies out there, S&P, Moody's, Fitch, do this type of work. We use Moody's to rate our debt or our bonds that we're going to go out to sale, and they rate them on a scale on creditworthiness. And so we are in line with other municipalities our size, and are doing a great job in keeping our bond rating at a very high level. So we went through that process this past October, and we are closing on those bonds tomorrow morning. And we maintain a AA2 rating, which is probably about as high as we can go to get to go up a level in our rating. We would probably have to double the tax base of the city, or double the land, square footage of the land in our city, so that we would have some better growth opportunities here in the city. So we're doing a fantastic job there. The bonds that we just sold were 20 years, and if anyone has a mortgage on their home, you can relate to this. Our bonds that we just sold with the high debt rating came in at about a yield of 1.5%, and 1.49% over the life of 20 years, which is pretty good. Last year, I think we would have been right around the 3.5% mark or so, and so we're doing well there. And it was a great time to sell bonds and lock in that rate. So that's what's happening there. From a rating agency perspective, we keep tabs on our fund balance in the general fund. I like to try to keep at least a 15% fund balance in the general fund, and we touched on it, I think, on night one. We're at a pretty, I forget what the number is now, but we're probably around 25 to 30% fund balance after 2021 that we have projected out with the budget. So we're doing well there. we have plenty of debt room, if you will. We do have a debt limit to how much debt we can issue. I don't have that figure with me today on what our debt limit is. It's in the 50 million, probably closer to 60 million range. And we're at least half of that. So we got plenty of room on our debt limit. And I like to try to keep our debt right around this level, and like to invest in infrastructure and things in the city that actually provide a rate of return, such as the Front Street project, which is a larger project that will provide a rate of return. And then part of that is like this office has talked about with our TIF funds. We have a couple of TIF debt projects out there that are paying for themselves. So that's a nice feature as well. So we do have a pretty manageable debt load right now, and hope to keep it that way over time.
Right. Well, I mean, I was going to make a joke and say we're ending on the most exciting topic of the evening with the debt, but it's actually huge. And I think you made a great analogy with respect to mortgages. I mean, people have a 20 or 30-year mortgage at a certain percentage. If you can save a percentage right off the bat, the amount of interest it saves you, it is immeasurable. I mean, you're saving not months of payments, but almost years of payments. And the fact that and the mayor, I think, touched on this in October when you guys went to Moody's, retaining the rating that you did, because what I'm hearing is being able to retain your credit rating during this time is not easy. Places are really being analyzed with what COVID's done and their ability to climb out of it. And I would say, Brian, you would know exactly what your debt limit was if you were real close to it. And when you're just about 50% of it, that's tremendous. So I know this wasn't on the agenda to talk about tonight. So if there's no questions tonight, if someone looks through this and wants to ask questions next week, that's fine. But the administration's managing of the debt, and like you said, using debt for projects that give back to the community is huge, and maintaining that debt rating is huge, because on whatever your home mortgage may be, when you're talking about debt at different amounts that equal 29 million, you can just imagine what a percentage or two increase does to those payments. So thank you for going over that, and thanks for the job that you guys have done managing the debt and the projects that you've done. And I'm glad you're closing on those bonds tomorrow. That's good news.
Yeah, thank you. It's funny, that does take up a lot of my time. So it's one of those things that doesn't get a lot of attention, but it takes up a bit of time.
Well, let's keep it like you're a referee on the field. You don't get any attention because of the calls you make or the debt. I think that's perfect. I'm sorry it takes up a lot of your time, but you're doing a great job managing it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Brian regarding the debt, or going through any questions regarding any specific debt, maybe for what it's for or why we have it? No. Okay. Like I said, if there's any next week, we'll be happy to have Brian answer them. That is the end of my calendar for this evening. Am I correct?
That's all I have on the list of departments. Yes.
Okay. One more shout out then. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Brian or any other members that are on the call this evening regarding the budget? Okay. Well, as a reminder, we'll do it again next Monday. Yes. Yes, on the 23rd. Okay. That's all I have. That'll conclude